Hi, everybody, and yeah, let's do that. An unsurpassed, penetrating, and perfect Dharma is rarely met with, even in 100,000 million kalpas. Having it to see and listen to remember and accept, I vow to taste the truth of the Tathagata's words. Well, thank you for being here, everybody, and welcome to people who are here for the first time or some of their first times. Perfect. Thanks. I want to continue our pursuit of ancient and not so ancient women ancestors, and to thank Chris for the last two fascinating Dharma talks. Often when we think about ancestors, male or female, we think about really ancient times. And what we've been finding is that it's really interesting to take an ancient piece and pair it with a contemporary commentary. And fortunately, we have this beautiful book that so many of us have used, at least partly, to prepare our talks, The Hidden Lamp. And what it is a book of poems and statements by ancient women, and then each poem or koan is followed by a contemporary woman's reflection. Sometimes it's impossible to choose which aspect to favor, the poem or the commentary. I think that in this case, both are important. So let's start with the poem. We don't know much about Chen. We know that she lived in China somewhere between the 7th and the 9th centuries. There was a lot of violence going on in China during that time, and it was not necessarily an easy time to be a Buddhist. Some people say that our rakusus were made small so that they could be worn under the regular clothing, so you would still have your practice, but not be apprehended by people in masks or whatever. Here's what Chen said. Oh, and by the way, she wandered and she visited lots of masters. And then after she realized enlightenment, so they say, she composed this verse. Up on the high slopes, I see only old woodcutters. Everyone has the spirit of the knife and the axe. How can they see the mountain flowers reflected in the water? Glorious, red. I'd like to know, Deb, how you knew to bring red flowers tonight. Glorious and red. The person who did the commentary is Joanna Macy. And how many of you know about Joanna Macy or know her name? She's one of our elders. She just passed this past week. When I chose this, I didn't even know she was ill, and then I found out she was on hospice, and then just before finishing the talk, she died. So I feel like we're really lucky to be able to spend a little time with her presence. And Desiree, who's going to do the next talk, and I decided that we'd spend both of these weeks at least honoring Joanna Macy. Laywoman Chen has seen a lot of the world in her journeys from one spiritual master to another. She has kept her eyes open. She's noticed what's going on. Even up on the high slopes, where the trees grow sparse and the vegetation thins out, she sees what people are up to, busily hacking away at anything that can serve as fuel. The old woodcutters are only doing what's been done for generations, taking from earth whatever can be used. They've grown so accustomed to sawing and chopping. It's how they define themselves and their purpose for existence. Their tools, knife and axe, shape their perceptions, direct their movements, become, in a sense, who they are. I love how Chen observes this, says Joanna Macy. I am moved that her quest for enlightenment has not closed her eyes to what is being done in and to the workaday world. It still summons her attention, even after she finally realizes enlightenment. I appreciate this because my attention, too, is so preoccupied with what we collectively are doing to our world. I cannot drive it from my mind. My spiritual practice calls me to come to terms with the destruction we humans are causing. I wouldn't want an enlightenment that would keep me from knowing and feeling the ways our actions are unraveling the very web of life. I want to be present to the suffering that comes with the spirit of the knife and the axe, the spirit of bulldozer and chainsaw, of deep sea drilling and mountaintop removal, of factory farms and genetically modified seeds. There are different ways of responding to this hacking away, and my customary response is one of outrage and opposition. I want to make these actions stop. And in order to stop them, I'm ready to harangue those involved, to shame them and show them how wrong they are, and try to take away their tools and their funding. I don't think to aim for anything more. And indeed, outrage and opposition do save some mountain flowers. How different is Chen's response? Instead of staying riveted on what the woodcutters are doing, her mind turns to what they are missing. The mountain flowers are right there in full view. The blossoms are real and red, glorious to behold. See how the water repeats them in its quivering mirror. Chen returns us to our senses. And that is what she wishes for the woodcutters, to see and feel the life around them. Look, right here on a branch of this tree you are chopping. See the bright flowers? As she snaps them awake from their habitual behavior, the world comes into focus. That's the kind of stopping she aims for. That's the kind of stopping when one comes back to oneself. And oneself is the place where real change can occur. So I think it brings up a few things. We look at the mountaintops, and some of them are all cut up, with more to come any minute. At that same time, if we look closely, we see beautiful flowers. We notice that the spirit of the knife and axe are prevailing. Many of you know about the plan that Congress agreed to last week to privatize great swaths of public lands, thereby leaving them vulnerable to extraction, deforestation, mining, and earning profit from the resources. Overlooking the mountain flowers, we can't help but feel polarized by what seems to be certain devastation of the ecology that produces the beautiful red flowers. We feel alienated by a prevailing sentiment that favors greed over preservation. We want to fight back. How can we do this when we have taken a vow to save all beings? Well, some of the answers were suggested in Joanna Macy's commentary. She wrote and taught and was a pioneer of deep ecology. She led a movement known as the work that reconnects, suggesting that we need to heal ourselves, society, and the planet simultaneously. She was an activist for 6 decades. Her goal was to help people move from despair and apathy into constructive, collaborative action, and to free us from the assumptions and attitudes that now threaten the continuity of life on Earth. So when we first started talking about Joanna Macy, Des and I kind of talked over, well, you know, she did these really amazing things, and a lot of them were very interactive and dance-oriented, and is that fair game for a Dharma evening? And I happened to chat with Chris, who said, as far as I'm concerned, all life is Buddhist study. So happy to bring her to our group tonight. Macy graduated from Wellesley College in 1950 and received her PhD in religious studies in 1978 from Syracuse University. Her doctoral work, under the mentorship of Ervin Laszlo, focused on convergences between causation in systems thinking and the Buddhist central doctrine of mutual causality, or interdependent co-arising. Thich Nhat Hanh calls it interbeing. Theravada calls it dependent co-arising. In both Sanskrit and Pali languages, the word shunyata is translated as emptiness. Early Buddhism discusses anatta, no self. This winter I studied Nagarjuna, who we know for his Madhyamaka and his concept of the middle way. And he names it contingency. Dogen and many others call it emptiness. Emptiness was around really before Buddhism. It came from a Hindu concept, but we really have chosen it for our own. Buddha said, emptiness in the world is empty of a self. And some of us have heard our beloved teacher Norman say, emptiness is empty of a separate sense of self. So she devoted her life to seeing how human beings fit into the tapestry of all life. For her opening image on her website is the Rainier Maria Rilke poem that many of you know. It's one of my favorites, so I'll read it. I live my life in widening circles that reach out across the world. I may not complete the last one, but I give myself to it. I circle around God, around the primordial tower. I've been circling for thousands of years, and I still do not know. Am I a falcon, a storm, or a great song? And then her words, active hope is waking up to the beauty of life on whose behalf we can act. We belong to this world. I found a Dharma talk that was given at the Auckland, New Zealand Zen Center on Chen mountain flowers. And it dovetails with Joanna Macy's observations and cautions us in our attitude of affecting social change. And I'll just read this. Chen laments that people don't see the glorious red flowers reflected in the water. We don't see what is right in front of us because the waters of our mind are agitated and muddied by the three poisons of greed, anger or hatred, and delusion. These three are also pervasive in human institutions, distorting our relationship to the earth and destroying it bit by bit. A paradigm shift is urgently needed. But whatever we do to effect that must not add more greed, aversion, fear, and denial to the mix. How we work for the earth and for social justice is just as important as what we do. The work is urgent, and we cannot afford to retreat into lofty spiritual states. Master Hakuin said, samadhi in actual life is 100,000 times better than samadhi in quietude. We always want more. We do constant mindfulness practice within a sesshin, taking each breath, continuously mindful, and situationally aware. These are the problems of the world. Greed, we want it, more, using the resources more than we really need. Nationalism, us against them, it's excessive, in overdrive, as we attempt to survive. We seem to be almost incapable of coming to terms with the reality that we will lose everything. And this may explain the existential angst that drives us nuts. We shore ourselves up so we won't have to face the inevitable. But practice allows us to back off and to see the acquisitiveness for what it is. We have the cure, as in the Four Noble Truths. What we see around us all the time makes it very difficult to see beyond anger, beyond hatred. The displacement, genocide, torture of Palestinians is another example. They were displaced in order to provide a home for a fellow group of displaced people in the formation of Israel. Who is the victim? Who is the victimizer? Can we get to a place where we don't react with the same poison we are protesting against? So next I want to talk about another Dharma colleague of ours, and it's a man. It's Peter Coyote. He is an elder on both the Buddhist and the cultural scene. If you don't know him from his 60s identity as a digger, a group that operated in the Haight-Ashbury in San Francisco during the 60s, and they tried to live on a non-money economy. And they found food, found things they could give away, encouraged people to do gifting economy. He soon became a spokesman for justice, a Zen priest, And he's the voice of various Ken Burns PBS series. So when you hear that low resonant voice, that's Peter Coyote. So he posted this piece on June 18th of this year. I'm watching the Los Angeles reaction to ICE raids with trepidation and respect. Regret, sorry. 3 years ago, I taught a class at Harvard on the theater of protest, designed to help people understand why so many protests turn out to be Republican campaign videos working directly against the interests of the original protest. A protest is an invitation to a better world. It's a ceremony. No one accepts a ceremonial invitation when they're being screamed at. More important, you have to know who the real audience of the protest is. The audience is never the police, the politicians, the Board of Supervisors, Congress, etc. The audience is always the American people who are trying to decide who they can trust, who will not embarrass them. If you win them, you win power at the box office and power to make positive change. Everything else is a waste. There are a few ways to get there. Let women organize the event. They're more collaborative. They're more inclusive, and they don't generally bring the undertones of violence that men do. Appoint monitors. Give them yellow vests and whistles. At the first sign of violence, they blow the whistles and the real protesters sit down. Let the police take out their aggression on the anarchists and provocateurs trying to discredit the movement. Dress like you're going to church. It's hard to be painted as a hoodlum when you're dressed in clean, presentable clothes. They don't have to be fancy. They just signal respect for the occasion that you want to transmit to your audience. Make your protest silent. Demonstrate your discipline to the American people. Let signs do the talking. Go home at night. In the dark, you can't tell the cops from the killers. Come back at dawn, fresh and rested. I have a great fear that, this is still Peter Coyote, I have a great fear that Trump's staging with the National Guard and maybe the Marines is designed to clash with anarchists who are playing into his hands and offering him the opportunity to declare an insurrection. It's such a waste, and it's only because we haven't thought things through strategically. Nothing I thought of is particularly original. It was all learned by watching the early civil rights protests in the 50s and 60s. And it was the discipline and courage of African Americans that drew such a clear line in the American sand, that people were forced to take sides, and that produced the Civil Rights Act. The American people are watching. And once again, if we behave in ways that can be misinterpreted, we'll see this explained to the public in campaign videos benefiting the very people who started this. So wake up, vent at home. In public practice, discipline and self-control. It takes much more courage. Once again, by both of these angels, we are called to our better angels. Some of us remember Edie Norton, one of our beautiful elders, who ran a class called Better Angels, where the idea was to bring people together from different points of view and practice talking to one another. We're called to act thoughtfully and be free from the three poisons: greed, hatred or anger, and delusion or ignorance. As suggested in the New Zealand Dharma talk, we can't make a cleaner world with tainted energy. So let's go into small groups. 3 to a group. You can pick your group, and I'll give you a prompt, and you can use it, or you can just talk as you wish. We usually follow a form where we ring a bell after, say, 5 minutes. One person talks at a time, and then you stop, and the next person talks, and then the third person talks. So it's not exactly a conversation. I think we have time to, how about if I give 3 minutes per person, and then there can be a little time at the end to talk, and then we'll all come back together. So the prompt, and this is from our Hidden Lamp book, and as I said, you can choose your own topic if you're not getting excited about this one. Is it possible to enter and witness the wilderness without taking something away from it? Why is it so easy to forget to pay attention to the beauty all around us? So, self-select. Three people, please. Yeah. Yeah. Once you're in your group. The prompt was, is it possible to enter and witness the wilderness without taking something away from it? Why is it so easy to forget to pay attention to the beauty all around us? Okay. First person.